got Rebecca.
And we got Rebecca back. Awesome. I love it. So we are talking about fear today. And what brought me to that topic was, I walk my dogs pretty consistently, basically every day. And so you run into the same people in the neighborhood, and eventually they talk to you, like maybe the 50th time you see them.
You're like, oh, we
And
might
then
be
eventually the
friends.
conversation that I always get asked this is, what do you feed your dogs? Because they go, oh, their coats are so shiny and they look so healthy. And when I tell them I feed them homemade raw food, one of two reactions. Either people ask me questions and lean in and want to know more, or they kind of get this look of horror on their face and kind of try to hide it. And oh, okay. So a lot of decisions we make in general in life, and we're talking about dogs, so
Yeah,
is made based on fear.
I believe that.
So we want to try to break through fear and have more information. So that's what this is about. So have you ever made any decisions with your dogs on fear?
Yeah.
I know
Several.
I have.
I remember I switched from my homemade dog food to Fresh Pet because I was afraid I was not giving her everything she needed.
Yeah.
I remember giving her all her little puppy shots because I was afraid of what everyone tells you.
Mm-hmm.
So she had all of her vaccinations. I mean, there's so many things I've been afraid of. I've been afraid to get her a new puppy friend.
Okay.
I've been afraid, like all these things, because she's my baby. And so I have all these fears, but there's no sense.
Yeah.
No sense in them.
Mine was similar to that. I didn't change my decision, but I was always in the beginning fearful when I started making homemade food. Are they getting all the nutrients they need?
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about that. So yeah. And,
I'm sure there are several things that I've done out of fear or just not fully knowing or understanding.
We're going to talk about that too in a minute.
Yeah. So, probably more than I could count.
Okay. So, fear is paralyzing to us. We kind of stay in our what we're comfortable with when we're in fear, when we have a decision to make. And our default is not to make a decision at all.
Yeah, let someone else do it
in
for
and
you.
of itself is a decision.
Yeah.
So let's get into that. How basically there is a risk for every decision you make, including not making a decision. Let that sink in for a second. So no matter what, we're talking about feed for your dogs essentially. So no matter what you feed your dog, there's risk involved with it. So that doesn't matter if it's kibble, canned, frozen, raw, fresh, homemade. There's always going to be some level of risk with any of them because every single category of food has some problem with it. So, for example, we're going to get, and this is just a preview of our next series. We're going to go through all the different food categories, but kibble is high likelihood of mycotoxins. Are you guys familiar with that?
Do they cause cancer?
Yes, and they are associated with the grains they put in there to make it where it will turn into a little nugget.
Yep.
So there's that. And then, of course, the big fear with the raw food is pathogens in the food. And we're going to get into all that in our next series, which will be season 3 of our podcast.
Season 3?
Yeah. So the first season was we didn't know what the heck we were doing season.
Yeah.
Season 2 was like from the spring to now. Okay. And we've been doing this a year. You realize that?
Oh my goodness. No.
So anyway, I kind of put together how I make decisions, and you guys can put input into this. So 5-step process. First, you have to know what you gather information from various sources. So not just the ones you agree with. So take in all the information you can on a particular topic. The one we're talking about today is food. So you would research all the dog foods and what's the best, and pick out information from various sources, like go to Purina and go to the big pet food companies, but then also research the other side of the issue, because with nutrition in humans and dogs, there's no one opinion.
Yeah.
You probably figured that out.
Yes.
So don't make a decision yet. Don't make a judgment. Just gather all the information. And how important that decision is to you is going to depend on how much time you spend. Because I read 2 books, and I listened to a podcast by Karen Becker. We'll have links to all this. Before I had a mind shift. I was the one where you do what these people have been making dog food for years, so they know what they're doing. So why should I question what's in the dog food?
Yeah.
I started at that point. So then I started having issues with one of my dogs, and I just got a bug in my ear about fresh food. Like, we as humans try to eat healthier, right? So why can't our dogs? So I just had that bug in my ear, and so I
Was it
decided
a bug?
to. No, it wasn't a real bug, but you know what I
It was
mean.
probably Jesus.
Am I like I'm like a boomer where I use terms that millennials don't know? No, I'm just kidding.
Excuse me. You just
Do you know what a
called
bug in your ear
millennial?
means?
Thanks.
It means it's I think they call that now a brain worm, where you have this idea just constantly in your head and you can't get it out.
Huh.
Have you heard of that
I haven't.
before?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard of the bug. One.
Bug in your ear.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like something that's bothering you and you want to know more about it.
Okay.
And you're thinking about it all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So I said, okay, I read 2 books, one by Karen Becker and another by, what's his name? I didn't write the author down, but it's called Unlocking the Canine Ancestral Diet. So they're talking about get back to as close as you can to when they ate rabbits and deer and whatever else they could get. So
Scavengers.
yes, so I read those books, and they had, they showed step by step how to make it, and so I kind of started that experimenting with homemade fresh food, and my dogs love it, by the way. But so I read that. I read some blogs and then news articles, and those are the various sources. News articles I put less stock in just because I have personal experience with how any news story can be steered in a
Bias.
certain way.
Yeah.
I witnessed an event with my own eyes, and I knew what happened. And when the reporters came in, they got the other side of the story and ran with it without question, without even interviewing everybody. And so they got the other side of the story and ran it in the paper.
Wow.
And so I knew, reading the article in the paper, I knew it was wrong because I witnessed it myself. So I don't know. Some stories may be true. I'm sure they are, but I take the news stories with a grain of salt, both TV and newspaper.
Yeah. Because it's just their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, yeah. So you compiled all the information. That's the first step. Then everybody has their own set of values, how they look at the world. So you got to take all that information and say, what makes the most sense with how I view the world?
Yeah.
For example, you have people that better living through chemistry. God designed men that created these chemicals, so they got to be good.
Oh, yeah.
And they're convenient for us and they make life better.
Okay, yeah.
Versus someone that says avoid chemicals at all costs.
So
So if are on the spectrum where you avoid chemicals at all costs and you look at the pet food label and it has all the chemicals on it, you're probably not going to pick that one.
yeah.
So you got to put it through your own personal belief system. Because if you don't believe in it, you're just going to not be congruent with yourself if you're feeding them something that, anyway.
Yep.
Then you pray about it. It's probably the most important step. So once you've filtered through all the information, you've kind of looked at it through the lens of your belief system, you pray about it. If everything is kind of lining up and checking on a certain way, just make that decision. That's the next step.
Yeah.
Just make the decision. And I listened to a podcast from Craig Rochelle. He talks about decision making. He says they're not permanent. It's not like the world's going to end and everything's going to change. If you make one decision, you can always go back to what you were doing before. So once you've made a decision, it's not like, oh my gosh, the world's ending.
Yeah, no.
You can always turn around and go back to the way you were doing it before if it doesn't work out.
You can always go a completely different direction too.
Yep. And that's the point. Like after you've compiled all this information, sometimes that changes your belief system a little bit. Like, for example, I used to be in the camp where chemicals, better living through chemistry. I grew up on a farm where you know what chlordane is?
No.
Okay, it's banned now. So it's an insecticide that we got rid of the fire ants with. But the problem was it never degraded in the water table. So we were spraying this stuff that was not degrading because it got rid of them ants really quickly. So that's how I grew up. I grew up with, we ate margarine, which is basically petroleum, right? Oil.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So somewhere in there, my paradigm shifted to avoiding chemicals with more information I've gathered, right?
Yeah.
So as you gather more information on the dog food, you may have said kibble's the way to go because it's convenient. And then you go, well, maybe I could be a little inconvenienced if it's going to make my dog healthier.
Yeah.
So, or not. Maybe it's to stay on kibble. Yeah. Just make a decision. That's all you got to do. And then the big step here is hardest step, maybe. Live with the risk. Any decision you make is going to have risk. We talked about that.
Yeah.
So don't play the blame game. Like, for example, I got you, if I gave you advice, hey, do fresh food, and then your dog got sick.
Dr. Michael told me to do fresh food. It's all his fault.
You got it. You got the blame game down.
Yeah.
So, but you made the decision to do it.
Yep.
So just own it, take personal responsibility, and then make a different decision if that's what you want to do. But this may be getting into the weeds just a little bit. Dogs are extremely innate. Like humans, if they want to get rid of something that's toxic, maybe there was a bug in some of the food or whatever, they try to stop that process of vomiting. But dogs just, if they're sick, they just do it.
Yeah, because
so they're getting rid of, if something's in it, they're getting rid of it.
Yep.
So, and there's steps, and when we get into all the different ways to do the homemade food, there's ways to get rid of the major pathogens so that it's safe. We'll talk about, we're getting into the weeds again. So any thoughts on that so far? Like how to make a decision? I mean, life lessons here.
It is very life lesson-y, but I like it.
What I like is that you can take that away from dogs too and use it in your own life.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not just good advice for your dog. It's good advice for your life.
We're framing it in the reference of making a decision on what you feed your dog, but this goes,
or anything.
You can do it anything. Yeah.
And I also like how you broke this down.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Craig Rochelle's podcast.
Exactly.
Someone's learning.
Yeah. And we'll have all these show notes on you. So again, our steps: gather information, work it through how you view the world, make a decision, evaluate that decision on an ongoing basis, pray about it, and then live with the risk. So anything else besides that? And we're going to get, like I said, this season 3 is going to be all about series. We're going to get into food. We're going to get into training in more detail, the different methods so that you can make a decision. Sound good?
I love it.
Okay, so we're done with that part. Now we get to talk the fun part. What's going on with your pups?
Well, last time I was on here, I talked to you guys about how Daisy kept pooping in the house.
Oh,
well,
is it ongoing or?
Yes, and it's only when I'm not there. Like she doesn't do it every day. It's not every day. I'm home quite a bit. I only work 2 days a week. And my dog, she doesn't act like she has any separation anxiety or anything like that. But maybe she does in a tiny form or something.
Yeah.
She's pooping in my house. But pretty much, I think what we decided is, okay, so a crate is a place for a dog to have a safe space. We got rid of hers a while back because she just lays in our bed. And I always thought that was her safe space. Yeah. Maybe it's not. And also, maybe she needs to be confined to a tiny little space so she doesn't poop in my house.
Some dogs feel comfort it's almost like their den, so to speak.
Yeah, we used to call it her house, and she used to love to go in there when people were over. She used to sleep in there when we were watching TV or something.
Place she can go and be by herself and just chill for a little bit.
And now I have 2 babies, so now I think she needs a crate again.
2 human babies, right?
Yeah, 2 human babies. Because, listen. I
got to clarify for the dog podcast.
I got a puppy baby and a kitty baby and 2 human babies. So, Yeah, I want to build her a really cute one though. That's nice and kind of big. You know?
We developed a routine with the beagles. They love their nap time. We open the back door, they shoot and go in their crates, and they love it. And they roll down and take their little naps.
Oh, see, Daisy's a napper too.
Yeah,
I feel like she would love it during the day.
And you can almost see them relaxing when they get in their crate. There's nothing to worry about. It's like they curl up in their quote unquote den and take a nap.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They are on a strict routine. 6:30 is walk time. And they're all doing their own thing. They're like napping or they're chewing on a rope or something. But at 6:30 they all find you and look at you like it's time.
That's awesome. That's a good routine. Routines are great.
And we're trying to keep. So Jackson's our 2-year-old lab, and he's the most wonderful dog in the world, except when he has to be separated from us. Like, for example, maybe we're having people over for dinner and they don't like dogs.
Why would they be at your house?
Right? I know, right? Or we're having I don't know. Sometimes they just need to be like, we've thought about hosting Thanksgiving. Well, with that many people in your house,
he would eat all your food. That's out.
Yeah, I know. He's definitely a counter surfer. So, excuse me. There's times when he needs to be outside. So when he's back there, if he's got something to do and he wants to be out there, he's cool. But if he wants to be around us, he goes to the back door and he barks and barks and barks and barks. So we decided to say no more. So anytime he barks, we open the door and we have like a fly swatter. We just kind of whack him real gently. We're not hurting him. Just kind of get his attention and say no. And so anytime he does it. So like the other day, he was being stubborn. I literally stood by the back door and waited for him to bark and then went and whacked him. No. After about 20 minutes of that, eventually he got the idea and he laid down and quit barking. That is like huge win.
That is a long time.
Yeah, I know, but eventually he got the idea.
Way to be persistent.
And then once yay, high five. But then like I gave him a few minutes and then I said, good boy, and let him in.
Yeah.
So
reward him for being good. Yeah.
So that's what we're working on with Jackson. So
how are your babies?
Oh, it's always something, it seems like, with them.
What's going on?
So Ginger, she's had the past couple weeks, when we go outside, she just kind of sits there and stares at me.
And so is she supposed to be doing her business?
She's supposed to be doing her business, and her brother is already like way past her in that department. Hadn't done his thing 10-15 minutes before she even thinks about moving. And so I try to get her to walk, and she squeals because she doesn't want to do anything. It's like she would rather just sit. And so I had to force her to walk on the leash, and then she freaks out because she doesn't want to. But then we go inside, and then I turn around.
No.
Yes, inside.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure what
Did she get scared by another dog in the?
See, and the only other dog that I've noticed, and I noticed that there was another dog out there, and I shifted their time a little bit because they have a pretty regular schedule on when they go outside, just because of work and everything. So I noticed there was another smaller dog out there that Baloo was being distracted by, so I altered their schedule a little bit, and then that started. So I don't know if it's because it's outside of her scheduled time, or if she did get scared by the other dog, or maybe how Baloo was reacting to the other dog. I don't really know.
So she won't go, and then she goes up in the house and goes, oh man.
Yep.
It sucks.
It does. It's rough.
Right there with
and
you.
It's not like you can stand outside until she actually goes an hour or something.
Yeah, because she won't. She will literally sit in the same spot because she's a small dog. She's got tiny legs. I have to carry her down the stairs because if I don't, she dives into the bottom step. Yeah, it's not pretty. So I have to carry her down the stairs. but I don't want to carry her around and then put her down and then her sit and then do it over and over and over again. So I haven't come up with a very good solution for that yet.
Well, we have an acquaintance that their dog never goes outside. They use pads, I guess. But then you don't want that. They got to be outside and socialize and get some sunshine or something, you know.
And the pads, I've never had a good experience with those because sometimes someone will use them and then your dog gets a little confused and decides to go on papers. And then your dog gets confused and goes on a towel, and then gets confused and goes on a blanket. And the next thing you know, they're going on your bed.
So we had a Westie that was kind of like that, but only in the wintertime. She was a princess.
Fragile.
Yeah, she didn't want to go.
I mean, I know to expect that. When it's raining, she doesn't want to step in the wet or like
she's so pampered.
She is. If it's cold outside, like not so much the cold, but if it's cold and damp, she definitely wants nothing to do with it. But this whole thing has been very new.
So like snow's out of the question.
Snow is completely out of the question, but Baloo loves the snow.
Oh, my dog.
He goes and rolls around in it.
That's when my dog's open up.
Is, so.
Our 7-year-old lab, that is like her happy place is the snow. Oh my gosh. She turns into a puppy again. Runs, jumps into the big piles and dives into the snowbanks. Oh my goodness. I got video somewhere. I'll have to track it down. That's her fave.
Oh my goodness.
Followed by a close second, the lake.
Oh yeah, water. Daisy's a water dog.
Okay, anything else?
I actually have one more thing.
Yes.
Sorry. I just remembered that. So Baloo actually has been extremely temperamental recently. And I'm wondering if maybe he's not out of alignment.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's been lashing out at Ginger.
Oh.
And it was little outbursts at first, just kind of like growling or snarling at her. And then a couple of nights ago, I was doing homework and I wasn't facing them, so I'm not 100% sure what happened. But he full on attacked her. And I had to separate him from her.
I'm assuming he's the alpha in the situation.
Yeah, he is.
Was it about food or anything?
No, there was no food
Has
out.
he ever done that before?
Not like that. I mean, they've gotten into little tiffs, but never, I've never had to separate them because he's attacking her. Yeah. It was very...
Gathered.
Do you think she feels like she's going potty in the house? She's going potty in the house. Do you think there's a piece of her that might not be feeling okay? And then he's sensing that, and he's just...
But he's like...
He's already the alpha,
yeah.
so... You know?
Was she bugging him or anything? Or
I don't know. I know that, of course,
you didn't see what happened.
I know when she's in heat, which I know she's not right now because we just got out of that about 3 weeks ago. She'll bug him. And that's when I noticed that he's more irritated just with her because
there's a reason for that though.
There's a reason for that, yeah. But
you just think he's a grumpy guy.
He might be grumpy. He might be hurting a little bit. Maybe I don't really know what's.
Okay.
But it's been the past few days that.
Yeah, typically when they're like that, there may be something that is, and they can't just tell you they're in pain, but they kind of get aggressive if they're feeling pain.
Yeah, but I felt bad. I got onto him and made him go to his house, and, and then I felt bad, so I went in there and I loved on him a little bit. I'm like, you have to be nice. You can't be attacking your sister. This is not okay.
But it wasn't play that got a little too far.
Not play.
Okay. Because the two beagles, their sisters, are littermates, and they start out growling at each other, and then it gets a little too intense sometimes. So
just like people.
Yeah. But it starts as play, so they eventually calm down. But so he might be, because he came in that one time limping.
Yeah.
So it may not. He's not limping now, but it might be a little painful. So yeah, we can check him out. All right. Awesome. So we're going to check out, and like I said, this ends season 2 and starts season 3 next time. We're going to go through all the different dog foods and details so that you can know the pros and cons of each one.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you later.
See ya. Bye.